Meanwhile, both GGCA and Unite have welcomed the new civil service hours announced by the government. We spoke to Unite's Victor Shello, but first to the GGCA's Wendy Cumming.
We're absolutely overjoyed. This has obviously been, for the GGCA membership, a long-held aspiration, and I think that it's been really on the agenda for the last 12 years or so. But in fact, more so since September 2012, it's actually been the prime focus of the GGCA of the GGCA work and the GGCA committee. So for us, it's all come to fruition, and we're absolutely over the moon.
And how many members do you have within the civil service?
I think it's approximately, at the last count, I think it's between 8 to 900. But it's difficult to know because it does fluctuate.
Well, Unite welcomes these changes of hours as it's going to benefit the service users, which is the most important part of the exercise. I mean, it affects the civil service and GDC admin workers directly, and those departments within the public service which have not got the HR department have already been dealt with Unite direct involvement. And I would like to say that according to a bulletin that GCA released, they should not be worried about Unite intervening in their own negotiating process, because we understand that they have negotiating rights on certain aspects within the civil service. 60% of majority voters decided that they wanted the option of 8 to 3:30. And we highlighted the fact that there was another 40% that needed attention. And this is what Unite has done.
The Chamber of Commerce, which has historically opposed the proposal for new working hours for public sector workers, says it's a pity that full e-government will not be introduced at the same time. It also regrets that its recommendations for civil service counters to remain open till 4:30 in the afternoon have not been taken on board. Christine Vasquez has this report.
Summer hours have traditionally been a favourite gripe for the private sector. So it's not surprising that a change of hours all the year round was not going to go down well. The Chamber says, in principle, it opposed the new working hours for public sector workers, as it felt it would lead to disparate working conditions between the public sector and the majority of the private sector. However, it says it engaged with the government and unions to ensure, as far as possible, that private sector interests were not prejudiced. The Chamber says it believes that the public sector's primary role is to serve the private sector, which generates around 3/4 of Gibraltar's economic output. It states that one of its main concerns is the capacity to interact with various government departments more easily. For this reason, it says the Chamber had urged the government to ensure that any changes to public sector working hours coincided with full e-government across all departments, as well as extended counter hours until 4:30. It therefore regrets that full e-government will not coincide with the new working hours, and that counters will only open till 3 in the afternoon. However, it welcomes the introduction of additional e-government services at the end of May and hopes others will follow soon after. It also hopes that the extended counter hours will, while falling short, it says, lead to an improved service and to greater efficiencies. It acknowledges that full e-government is a complex task that will be difficult to achieve, but believes it's a very worthwhile goal as it helps companies in the private sector as well as the public sector itself to become more efficient.
And we'll be back with more of this week's news after this break.
Did you know that here at the GHA we offer a free stop smoking service?
Solely for health reasons. I stopped smoking due to my health.
I was very stressed in the mornings and stopped smoking.
I was tired of it.
Promise I'll make to my wife.
I stopped due to health reasons.
I helped me because very quickly I was able to give it up without feeling the need to pick up a cigarette.
So it's just coughing, twice I'm okay now.
Money-wise on the pocket,
it calms my mood swings down.
Before it was difficult just going up the stairs try Champlex out. It does work.
It was great.
Call 2000 7865 and we'll help you give up.
Faith may provide many answers to people's lives, but in turn, these raise even more. Join me and my guests as we discuss these many questions of faith.
Welcome back. A fire caused extensive damage to a restaurant at Water Gardens. The incident, which was reported at around 9 last Sunday evening, affected traffic flow with the closure of Waterport Road westbound. Although the fire itself was put out after 15 minutes, the smoke logging from it required the evacuation of certain tenants from the surrounding building. The main damage has been to the interior of the premises. There were no injuries reported, with the cause of the fire still under investigation. Meanwhile, a fire at Flat Bastion Road resulted in damage to the entrance and stairwell of a residential building. Although the exact cause of the fire is still under investigation, the source was a motorcycle parked within the block. The fire was extinguished around 5 minutes later, but the City Fire Brigade had to ventilate and work on the three-storey building, which had been filled with smoke. They attended the incident around 6 in the evening with 2 appliances. Also this week, the GSD opposition accused the government of cleaning up Laguna Anglasis estate from the mass sale of cigarettes, only at the expense of other areas like Waterport Terraces. It says residents there feel uneasy and intimidated by the practice of people loitering and stuffing their clothing with tobacco, and has urged the government to apply its policy properly to all residential estates. Stephen Nish asked spokesperson Malin Naon what evidence she had to back up her claim that the Waterport Terraces area has seen an increase in tobacco activity.
Well, I personally have received many complaints from residents of the Waterport Terraces area over the last few days, and indeed we've seen a lot of comments on the social media recently, so we know that there is a lot of discontent and a lot of insecurity in this area about the tobacco dealings going on, and we're very concerned for them because they're entitled to feel comfortable in their own zone. And yes, so we basically have established that the problem has moved from one estate to another.
I suppose that the problem is that people are always going to want to buy cigarettes while there's this price differential, so wherever there are shops that sell tobacco, you might have this problem arising.
Indeed, and it is a sensitive issue. We accept and we appreciate that it is one of the pillars of our economy, and it's an issue that has to be dealt with sensitively and with a long-term plan. And we commend government for taking an initiative to start seeing how to curb the situation at the moment. But not enough has been done, and we want to see more done in order to make sure that at least in residential areas, residents do feel safe in the knowledge that this activity is not taking place.
For its part, the government said the GSD's hypocrisy has sunk to a new low since it was on its watch that the relevant tobacco trade licenses were granted. It claims Glacis and Laguna were left with a tinderbox of intimidation and uneasiness, which had to be tackled by the incoming government. It recalls that in the last few months, robust new legislation has been introduced and the problems on these estates eradicated. Number 6 says that having done absolutely nothing to solve any of these issues when in government, it's utterly ridiculous for the GSD to criticise the government because other estates might start to feel the effects of the successful clampdown on Glacis and Laguna. It adds it's already taking the necessary action to extend its special zones and is monitoring tobacco-related antisocial behaviour in order to take further action where and when required. Benjamin Marache told the Supreme Court that there are still millions of pounds in accounts that have been missed by both the liquidators and the prosecution. The former managing partner of collapsed law firm Marache & Co. was answering questions from the lead prosecutor in the multi-million-pound fraud case. John McGuinness QC asked Mr Marache if he was claiming that out there are millions available to repay clients. Mr Marache said this was correct, adding the authorities had failed to investigate properly. When Mr McGuinness put it to Benjamin Marache that he was deluded, the defendant responded that the case was a half-baked cake in which not all the evidence had been brought to court. Benjamin, Isaac and Solomon Marache, together with Leanne Turnbull, have pleaded not guilty to conspiracy to defraud millions of pounds of client monies. A local entry took first place at this year's Gibraltar International Song Festival. The song Total Heaven was written by Susie Alman and Dennis Valerga and was sung by Nolan Frendo last Saturday night. It received the most votes from a panel of judges and took the top prize, winning a trophy and a cash prize of £4,000. The second prize of £2,000 went to Charo Lopez for the song Ya Me Cansé. And the third prize of £1,000 went to Leicester for Retuiteando Mi Corazón. The Best Interpreter award went to Zenobia. The show, held at the Tercentenary Hall, featured a performance by special guest Kid Creole and the Coconuts. The festival then culminated with a second performance of the winning song, Total Heaven. And for the rest of this week's news, you can head over to our website, gbc.gi/news. Don't forget to tune in to Radio Gibraltar and GBC Television, of course, throughout the week for the very latest local news. You can follow us on Twitter as well and like us on our Facebook page. Thank you very much for watching. From the team, good night.